all legalize the use of drugs, and they operate tolerance policy that in such a way that they operate, you can have possession of drugs, you can use drugs as much as you want. Now, I remember a student, asking that, okay, so if, let's say for instance, weed is really that bad, why is it legalized somewhere else? Bearing in mind that the set of children that we have right now, they have their curiosity level is on another level.
Yeah.
Now, when we have this, how do we, look at the changing global narratives to educate our own children in this part of the world? Because most times they will always bring things. I have a 13-year-old son, and sometimes we talk about things and he tells me, Mom, but this is happening somewhere here, why is it supposed to be different here? I go in, I'm an educator, so we have to have that, but there are parents who are not able to have this thing. But looking at it from that aspect, where there are countries that these children are looking at, they have information about that drugs are legalized, and here we're saying that this is how it is. How do we help them to understand these global narratives and why our environment is different?
When you say drugs are legalized, I'm aware of that of Canada, that marijuana is legalized. Now, but you need to have this understanding that they are regulatory agency. They are very effective.
I like that. They're a regulatory agency.
They are very, very effective. Here in Nigeria, we have NAFDAC. NAFDAC is doing a lot of work, but they have the manpower is still very, very low compared with our population.
Yes.
Now, if you talk about marijuana, what gives you high in marijuana, weed, or cannabis is the THC. That's the chemical that gives you high. Now, in those countries, they regulate those drugs. And to be honest with you, there are some drugs that have medicinal value. But in developed countries, they regulate it. They don't just allow anybody to have access to them. But here in Nigeria, like I said, NAFDAC is trying, but we cannot regulate effectively. So we cannot.
Is it we cannot, or we're not there yet?
We are not there yet.
Okay.
And we can't copy the foreign countries because we don't have the tools, we don't have the technology. Then NAFDAC is not well funded. Then let me chip in something now. Government has to sanitize the drug distribution system because that's the major problem. Government has to sanitize the drug distribution system. Then they need to restrict access to certain drugs. You see, these drugs, they are available and they are affordable. That's why kids have access to it. Now, if you go to the open market, you find drugs like Lexotan, Valium. These are prescription drugs that should not be hawked inside the bus or just find them at motor parks. If you don't have prescription drugs, prescription from doctors, you cannot have access to those drugs.
Wow.
But in Nigeria, you find if you go to motor parks, you see people hawking drugs. Now, government has to step up their game and see that they sanitize the drug distribution system so that people will not have access to these illegal drugs and even legal drugs that people abuse. Because we need to differentiate. We have illegal drugs and we have legal drugs. Prescription drugs, they are legal drugs.
Yes.
But you need to have the doctor's prescription before you can buy them. And we have over-the-counter drugs.
Yes.
Over-the-counter drugs, anybody can go there without prescription drug.
And they get it.
Like your vitamin C, your Panadol, and the rest of them. But when we talk about prescription, because most people abuse prescription drugs. Because, for example, tramadol now, people take 500 milligram, 300 milligram, which is an abuse of painkiller. Opioids are very, very strong drugs that you cannot just go and buy except the doctor prescribe it for you.
You have shared very practical insights, and I love that you have also talked about commending the work of NAFDAC, because I know I try to keep up with the news, and they're always in the news every now and then, busting people moving drugs from here to there. And like you said, our population is really a big one, looking at Lagos State and even Nigeria as a whole. Let me come to you, Blessing. Still talking about the global narrative. As a social worker, how do you think we can explain it to our young people that even though these are the laws in all of these places, but this is the law that is binding us as citizens, in Nigeria, and this is what we are supposed to do when it comes to drug abuse prevention?
Yeah, okay, just like saying LTGQ is legalized you. It's in other countries, but we don't have it here.
Yes.
Also, when you talk about surrogacy, it's also legalized in other parts of the world,
But here,
but here it's not yet legalized. So,
yes.
but you still have people doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you want to take your child out of the country, you start having issue because you cannot use not
Mm.
legalized. You can't actually document it. There's no law backing it up.
Mm.
You understand? So the same thing I'll tell to the young people, like you rightly said, these are the law governing our country, where you live at the moment.
Yes.
And you just need to be a law abiding citizen.
You have to be a law-abiding citizen. Very important. Because if you don't follow the laws, you're going to get into
You go
trouble,
into
and
trouble
there are consequences
to
for
that.
for your actions. All right, this is Security 247 on Echo 89.7 FM. First on your mind, and we'll be discussing extensively on drug abuse prevention, treatment, and of course recovery. And I have with me Oluwafemi Silas and Blessing Igbani, members of the Stampard Abuse Initiative, and I want to say thank you to them, for really sharing with us so far, as well. All right, I know that our time is passing, but our phone lines are still open. You can still send us WhatsApp messages or put a call through to us on 08058975897. Tell us, how can we curtail the abuse of drug in our society? Now, I know that we've talked about, you've shared a little bit about treatment and recovery. I just wanted you to just share a little bit more because these days I see a lot of young people out there, and sadly they're not in their right mental space. You could tell that this person has been up to something, and this is not like a gender thing, maybe like the boys alone, even the girls. I see a lot of young girls. I saw a lady earlier in the week because I walk on the island around Koi, and I was like, God, what has happened to this girl? What has happened to her? So just wanted to share what are the options that are available, um, even to people with low income when it comes to those that have been exposed to drug, and how they can seek help. What are the options available to them? Do we have facilities that they don't really have to pay anything, or they have to pay little? Because some people have these people in their homes that have, they've used drug, but they don't know where to take them, because they're like, if I take them here, they're gonna have us to bring thousands and thousands of naira. Yes. So what are the options that are available even to the low, underserved communities?
Okay, I know Lagos State is doing a lot. They have a
Yes.
rehabilitation center they've actually subsidized, and also NDLEA are also doing a lot. As a
Yes.
matter of fact, they have a toll-free line that will actually supply to such an individual, where they actually have they provide such psychosocial support. They have
Okay.
counselor, they have clinical psychologists, they have psychotherapy, they have psychiatric doctors who can actually help in attending to such individuals. So should I go ahead and
Yeah,
call the
sure,
okay? So
yeah.
the toll free line of NDLEA is 080 010 21 20 3040. I
Mm.
take it again: 080 01 02 03 040. So
Hmm.
that's the toll free line of NDLEA. They are there to help. Give them a call, and I'm sure they will
And do we
help
have
out.
these facilities available in, every local government area? You want to say something?
Yes, when it comes to treatment, let me try and give you a bigger picture.
Okay.
Now, treatment involve about four stages.
Okay.
One, there's what we call pharmacological treatment.
That's a big word.
I will break it down. When you want to treat a drug user, now the what I mean by pharmacological treatment is just the use of medication. There are medication that can be prescribed that craving, that urge, it can try to lower it down.
Hmm.
Then if you have other psychiatric issue or mental health issue, there is a relationship between mental health and drug abuse.
Yes.
People who abuse
Yes.
drug come down with mental health issue, and people who have mental health issue can also start abusing drug. So they are interwoven somehow. So when you see the doctor, they can treat you with drugs to deal with those mental health issue as a result, or underlying issue
Yes.
as a result of drug abuse. Then withdrawal symptom. Drugs can also be used, medication can be used to treat withdrawal symptom. That's the first stage. The second stage is what we call substitution therapy.
Okay.
Now I'm going to break it down. What we mean is substituting a very strong potent drug with a less potent drug. For example, heroin is a very potent drug. So people under the influence of using heroin, when they seek for treatment, what the doctor prescribe for them is to give them a less potent drug,
Okay.
like methadone. So then as time goes on, they tamper with it. So their system gets used to the
Hmm.
less potent, and eventually they come out of that addiction. Thirdly, there's what we call psychological approaches and counseling. There's what we call CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Hmm.
Is a therapy we use for treating drug users. It's just to work on your mind, to channel your mind from thinking about drug or negative things, and channel your mind to think about positive things. It's a
Hmm.
therapy that is used by clinical psychologists and other
Okay.
professionals. Then lastly, we have the rehab center. In
Hmm.
advanced country, they have support group
Okay.
like Alcoholic
Lemons.
Anonymous. They can help
Okay.
people so that relapse will not occur.
Hmm.
So those are the four stages. Now, coming back to your point,
Yes.
one of the challenges we are facing in Nigeria is about treatment.
Hmm.
It's too expensive.
Wow.
Government has to do something very, very fast. A lot of people are willing to come for treatment, but they
Okay.
cannot afford to pay for it.
That's
So
concerning.
most government institutions treating people who are suffering from SUD, substance use disorder,
Okay.
government must subsidize the treatment for drug users as soon as possible, because let me shock you. In 2018, a research was conducted by Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, supported by European Union and United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime.
Hmm.
And they came out with this finding. It was a survey, the first ever comprehensive medical survey on drug use in Nigeria. In that survey, it was said that 14.3 million Nigerians abuse psychoactive substances.
14.
Point three. That was as far back as 2018 for non-medical purposes.
Wow.
And one out of every drug user in Nigeria is a woman. That will shock you.
Hmm.
So now between 2018 to date, I'm sure they are working on another survey now.
Hmm.
The figure will have gone up. So government must subsidize the treatment for drug users as soon as possible.
Wow. Wow, that's huge. And I love that. I love how you wrap it up there. The call for action. It is important that we step in. And of course, like you said, we're really pleading on the government to see what it can do to subsidize treatment for drug abuse users as well. I want to say thank you. I know that our time is fast running, and of course, this has been an insightful session as well. I've had to learn a lot. Thank you so much, Oluwafemi Silas and Blessing Ungwani. Oluwafemi is the Executive Director of Stamp Out Abuse Initiative, and Blessing is the Director of Operations at Stamp Out Drug Abuse Initiative. I want to say thank you again to Elizabeth. She's our social media personnel. Thank you for always coming in, to capture our moment as well. And I want to say big thank you to our producer, Tosin Ali Balogun. We really appreciate you, for making this session a smooth one, and of course to our audience as well. And I really hope we could have more of this conversation as well, because we can't stop creating awareness and sharing with the people out there on how best we can help people who have been involved in the use of drugs, and of course every other security concerns as well. All right, with that we've come to the end of the show, and today we've discussed extensively on drug abuse prevention, treatment and recovery. And we're going to be having the recap of the session on our YouTube channel at Security 247. And of course, you can always go back there to catch and of course share your questions as well. I remain your host, Patience Oshineke, and remember that this show is powered by Lagos State Government. And with me and everyone in the studio, we're saying have a beautiful weekend. Stay safe out there, and remember that if you see something, say something. Don't just keep it to yourself. You can help somebody out there. You can you can share information. Of course, remember the emergency tone number that we have in Lagos State for responses is 767 and 112. You can always reach this number at any point in time to report emergency issues. From me to you, have a beautiful weekend, and of course catch you next week.